the Radio Today podcast with Jen Sederhelm.
Hi, and welcome to this special feature episode where Steve Ahern and Tim Burrows talk about the Australian Audio Awards. You'll find out about entering the awards, the event details, and the judging. The awards event and party will take place on the 28th of May. Here's Steve and Tim.
Mumbrella and Radio Info on one podcast.
That's the one moment that everybody hasn't been waiting for. But here we are, and we're on both of each other's podcasts to talk about the Australian Audio Awards, of course.
Yeah, so it's probably just worth explaining how it came about that we're working together on this.
Well, as soon as it was announced, as I'm sure you were, I've been deluged with emails and texts and comments from our readers. First of all, sad that the awards were going, but most people understood that it cost a lot of money and probably wasn't sustainable in the way it was going. But then asking, would we do something, saying you're one of those organisations at the heart of the radio and audio business. And there were hundreds, I'm sure you got them too. People were just clamouring for something to replace the ACRAs.
Yes, and as you haven't particularly spoken about this publicly before, but I think I can kind of probably allude to it. Ahead of the cancellation of the ACRAs, we had been talking to the people who'd previously done the Australian Podcast Awards a couple of times about becoming a local partner for that. So it then became a kind of conversation around how the gap in the market, what the demand from people within the radio or the audio community actually was, which obviously felt like both radio and podcasting. And then we realised when you and I spoke that two local partners working together might be the way to go.
And so far, so good. It feels good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
We put it out there. We opened the entries before Christmas, and there's certainly chat about it. A lot of people that I know have asked me something about it, the entries. How do you do it, or what should I do here? So people are talking about it.
And look, and the one thing I do know based on sort of previous experience with the various awards we do with Mumbrella is almost all of the entries will come in a panicked final 48 hours, is always how it goes, which I guess with audio-based entries, you have to allow a tiny bit more time to kind of have your final submission ready. But and one of the things we have got now is we're still locking in one or two final jurors. One of your roles in this process is to curate that jury. It's a long list, but it's a pretty impressive list.
It is impressive, and thanks to everyone who has said yes. A lot of those people who did contact me all put their hand up to say, if you need us for something, we'll help you, we'll talk about it, publicise it, or we'll be a judge. So they were, and we've got a huge list. You can see it on the page, mumbrella.com.au/audio awards. You can click the purple section and view the full list of jurors. We've got radio industry legends like Brad March and Greg Smith, Dobbo, Guy Dobson. From the podcast section, there's Heinrich, who's the regional managing director of ACAST for our region. So many people.
It's a good mix, isn't it? I can't spot many kind of major audio organisations in Australia who aren't represented.
That's so right. In the podcasting section, we've got Dead Set Studios and Chesterman's there on the list. We've got the small independent podcasters, and we've got representatives from the big ones too. So yes, we've managed to get both radio and podcasting people represented on that jury list. The expertise is astounding, really.
Well, the process is effectively for the judging. It's a two-stage process. There's a round where we shortlist and we ask our jurors to do that remotely, but we then bring our jurors together for a big judging day, don't we? Where are we doing that?
Yeah, that's going to happen at AFTRS. Thank you to the people at AFTRS who have provided some space for us. In fact, from what I hear from your judging event organisers, we're taking over AFTRS for a day. I mean, you guys are the experts at this, and I've been really impressed with your team. They really know how to run these judging days and awards events. But they were telling me that they break into various groups. Once that full day in-person session happens, then the finalists have already been decided. So they break into different groups of expertise to judge their area. Those groups are half a dozen or so around a table for each set of entries that they're given. We've allocated a whole lot of different rooms so people can focus on what they have to listen to and read. And then, as well as the individual judging, then the table groups talk it over. So you get this amazing conversation, I would imagine, about what's good in the entry, what's standing out. And also a criteria we've introduced this year is what impact is it having on the audio industry, and also what impact on Australia, on society in general.
And look, and one of the things we're very deliberate about in our sort of judging structure is we bring the juries together. And we ask them as individuals to champion the entries they like, to ask hard questions that might not be obvious ones about the other ones on the list. But then each juror around that table gets to have their own vote at the end of it. So it's not one of those ones where the loudest voice in the room wins. That juror then sit down and vote as individuals, and we obviously tally up those scores and find the winners. So, it's certainly a process. We make it as robust as we can. And, when we brief the jury on the morning, as we say at all of our awards, the key thing is fairness. If there was a member of the industry sitting in the corner of the room watching you as a jury, are you doing everything you possibly can to be fair? So that's kind of one of the key criteria. So to run through our key dates, the entry deadline, Friday the 6th of March. So entries are already live. 6th of March is going to come on fast. We'll then start the first round of judging on Friday the 13th of March. So just a week after that, we'll announce the shortlist on Tuesday the 31st of March. So again, that's coming up soon. And then the big night itself, Thursday the 28th of May at Carriageworks in Sydney.
That's going to be an amazing night. One of the things I was thinking about when we were starting to plan it was that we could have done the awards like we had done the Radio Today Podcast Awards online, but so many people also talked about how important having an event was. And, that would have just been beyond what we could do as a small publisher. But you guys have amazing expertise in that. And you've taken over Carriageworks for the whole Mumbrella 360 conference those few days. And this is integrated into the last day of it.
It is. It'll be the grand finale of the whole thing.
I've been to one of the Mumbrella 360s and stayed for the drinks, and it's always a buzzing night. So this will just add another level of glitz and glamour when you get all those radio people who, for the whole 12 months, have been with no makeup because they're in a dark little radio studio or a podcast studio. So they have their whole year's worth of glitz, glamour, makeup, dressing up, and they want to party.
Well, final thought, Steve. What are we looking out for in entries?
Yes, we're looking out for craft expertise. And so if it's a journalistic interview podcast, then there'd be those skills. If it's entertainment, we're looking for entertainment expertise. We're also looking and listening for good audio because it's the audio industry. A badly mixed podcast, that's just not going to make it on technical criteria. So make sure it sounds good and give us the best sounding bits when you put your audio together, and we take up to 10 minutes. Other awards over the years have been criticized for only allowing short, 2, 3, 5 minute audio segments, but it's up to 10 minutes for this. And we ask for a link to your replays of your show or your podcast so that the judges can go out and listen to more. I've also, in developing the criteria, put some other things too. Now, of course, great show and great craft, they're the main marking elements, but we're also looking for impact. what impact have you had on your community? If it's a news-breaking show, have you broken a story that's changed the law or made people sit up and take notice of this issue? And also, what impact and what contribution have you made to Australia's audio industry? So there's some of the elements we'll be looking for in the judging criteria.
Steve, if anybody does want to know any more, mumbrella.com.au/audio awards.
You've been listening to the second episode in our 2026 Radio Today podcast series with Steve Ahern and Tim Burrows. Entries to the Australian Audio Awards are now open. See the link in our show notes. Entries close on the 6th of March. There's no extension. Get your entries in now. We usually publish our podcasts every fortnight and sometimes publish bonus episodes like this one as well. I'll be back with your regular catch-up on radio and podcast news soon. If you like the Radio Today podcast, please follow, share our link, like us, and write a recommendation on your favourite podcast platform. I'll catch you next time.
Radio Today with Jen Sederhelm. Find more at radiotoday.com.au.
radiotoday.com.au